Lilo and Stitch uses the live-action shift and the streamlined plot to add depth to functionally the same story, with the expansion of Nani as a character serving as a clear example of that expansion. Nani is Lilo's older sister and sudden caretaker after the death of their parents, with both versions of the character struggling to stay ahead of social services and their concern for Lilo. The new film expands on what Nani had been into before the death of her parents, drawing attention to the sadness of putting all that aside to provide for her sister. This includes an expansion of Nani's college ambitions, which include a focus on marine biology and a full scholarship waiting for her. This gives Nani a more tragic edge, as it also puts emphasis on her youth compared to the more inherently mature-seeming animated version. This plays into the film's expansion of the themes about family and never leaving anyone behind, with Lilo, TT, and Mrs. Kikoa all arguing with Nani that she can't forget to take care of herself too. It's an effective way to flesh out the original character that still fits with the story and themes. One of the biggest changes to Lilo and Stitch's remake is the decision to turn Jumba into the villain of the film. In 2002's Lilo and Stitch, Jumba was a brilliant scientist who invented plenty of dangerous creatures like Stitch. Assigned to the recovery mission alongside Agent Pleakley to recover Stitch, Jumba is destructive but jovial in the animated film. This builds to him finding a home on the planet with Pleakley and eventually working his way into Lilo's extended family in the subsequent TV sequels. However, the live-action movie plays him much more villainously. Jumba in 2025's Lilo and Stitch is less bombastic and typically has a drier delivery for his comments. This gives him a more sinister edge than the original had, an element of the character that Zach Galifianakis plays into as he becomes more overtly vindictive. While Pleakley eventually follows the general arc of his animated counterpart and gets the ability to stay on Earth, Jumba's efforts to recapture Stitch destroy Lilo's home, set off the climactic third act, and get him recaptured by the Galactic Council. The decision to recast Jumba as the primary antagonist of Lilo and Stitch is such a big change on the plot. It results in the complete erasure of the original film's primary antagonist. Voiced by Michael Clarke in the 2002 film, Gantu was one of the Galactic Councilwoman's primary agents and was quickly established as one of Stitch's direct foes. After being told to apprehend Stitch himself, the more destructive Gantu traveled to Earth and endangered numerous lives in his failed attempt to catch the little blue alien. Due to the restructuring of the plot to make Jumba the central threat of the film, Gantu is removed from the new film. He does not appear in any major capacity in the plot, with Jumba instead setting off a similar climax involving Lilo being trapped on a spaceship. This could allow Gantu to appear in any hypothetical sequel to the film, however, potentially serving a similar antagonistic role to the one he played in the original movie and the animated series that followed. Agent Bubbles has some core similarities to his Lilo and Stitch counterpart, but the two versions of the character are fundamentally different with divergent backstories. Bubbles is an agent with the CIA in the new film, tasked with investigating Stitch's arrival on Earth. He continues his investigation into Lilo by posing undercover as a social worker involved in Lilo and Nani's case. In the original cartoon, Bubbles was actually the caseworker for Lilo and Nani, with the natural depth of Ving Rhames' vocal performance making him an intimidating reminder that Nani could easily lose Lilo. Courtney B. Vance plays Bubbles with a more openly emotional side, leading him to free Pleakley in time to help stop Jumba from escaping into space with Lilo and Stitch. He's also shown to not be familiar with aliens before the events of the film. This is in contrast to the original, where Bubbles is revealed to have been present for a human-alien interaction decades before the film and was even the one to convince the aliens that the mosquitoes are an endangered species. Vance's Bubbles also ends the film more overtly accepted into Lilo and Nani's extended family. Two of the biggest changes to the modern Lilo and Stitch from the original animated film are major additions to the cast. One of the most important supporting characters in the film is Amy Hill's TT, a joyful and blunt grandmother who has been a neighbor to the Pelicais for years. TT serves as comic relief at various points in the film, and is also established as the grandmother of Nani's love interest David. TT plays a big part in the film's ending by helping revive Stitch after he almost drowns, and she opens up her home to Lilo because Agent Bubbles is now a CIA agent instead of the social worker assigned to Lilo and Nani. The new film adds Tia Korea as Mrs. Kikoa. A well-meaning and empathetic woman, Kikoa is a softer approach to the social worker than the more naturally intimidating Bubbles in the original film. She even ends up playing into the film's final reveal, working with TT to make sure that Lilo and Nani's neighbor can serve as Lilo's guardian while Nani goes to college at the end of the film. In the original Lilo and Stitch, Nani was given a clear love interest in her friend and co-worker, David. David is a minor character in the film who fleshes out the story, with several implications that he and Nani are attracted to one another. However, the film's focus on Nani, Lilo, and Stitch kept that story from fully developing. It wouldn't be until the TV sequels that David and Nani would get a full romance storyline. Initially, Lilo and Stitch seems to be following that direction. Although David is a bit more tongue-tied and silly in the live-action version, the character largely plays a similar role as he did in the first film. However, the montage of pictures during the end credits includes a snapshot of Nani and David sharing a kiss while at the airport, suggesting that the pair did actually begin a romance after the events of the movie. This could be a fun element to explore in a hypothetical sequel to the film. The ending of Lilo and Stitch is ultimately a more realistic conclusion to the story, even with the continued presence of aliens. The animated film ended with Lilo, Stitch, and Nani reunited alongside their new adopted family that includes David, Jumba, Pleakley, and Bubbles. In the new film, Pleakley and Bubbles seem to be accepted into the group, alongside David and TT. Pleakley, who has lost his preference for female femme-coded clothing from the original movie, is still accepted by the group as the Galactic Council's representative, even as Jumba is detained. Although Nani does seem to lose her role as Lilo's legal guardian by the end of the film in exchange for the state government covering Lilo's medical bills, TT's decision to foster Lilo allows them to remain home and together. The use of stolen teleporter technology even allows Nani to easily visit from college to her home, ending the film with the sweet visual of the two sisters, along with Stitch, cuddling under the covers. It's a cute and more fleshed out ending for Lilo and Stitch that does a good job of feeling consistent with the original.